It's checking in with Anthony and Glenn, teaching you to be the hotelier that you wanna be. It's checking in with Anthony and Glenn.
Anthony.
Glenn, we're at the Mark Hotel in New York City. What year was it built?
I have no idea what was built, but I did know a lot of guys named Mark growing up.
It's a 5-star hotel.
Right.
It was renovated in 2008. Mm-hmm. It has a 10,000 square foot presidential suite.
Wow.
And you've been in this building long enough to have an appreciation for it. It's an older building.
It is definitely
What year
an older
was
building.
it born?
I could say pre-war, but that's about it.
Okay, give me a date.
1938.
1927.
Hey, he was
You were
so
pretty
close.
though.
I know.
How are you today?
I'm doing pretty good. You know, it's great to be back here in New York City. Anthony and I have been traveling all over the country, it seems, doing so many great experiences. Had so much fun doing several live recordings with you at different hotel industry
Matter of
events.
fact, we had so much fun in Beverly Hills at the Forbes Travel Guide that we kidnapped one of the people on our panel.
Yes.
And we brought it to New York. Who is it?
Well, your panel, not mine. It was a lot of fun watching you work on stage and having the day off, which was really fantastic. But you had the opportunity to work with Miss Lisa Lutoff-Perlo, and she's the president and CEO of Celebrity, our first ever guest in the cruise kind of universe. So
wow,
I'm really
so
excited.
am I. I didn't know that.
Well,
That's
right?
awesome.
Yeah, for a second when he said CEO of Celebrity, it's like, you're CEO of Celebrities? Like,
Well,
which one?
President and CEO, which always
Of
makes me
Celebrity Cruise Line.
Yeah. Why is it always president and
Good
CEO?
question. I think that's the order. It's like chairman and CEO, president
Yeah.
and CEO. In our company, the presidents of the brands are also the chief executive officers of the brand, so they have that designation.
Then why do you have to have a president and a CEO? Why not just a CEO?
That's what I never understand.
That is a good question.
Do you get 2 checks?
No. But that's a really good question, and that's a really good idea.
So God forbid you ever get terminated. They were like, "Oh, you're terminating from
Yeah, there
CEO
you
job?
go.
Okay, I still get to be president.
Right.
Can I still be
Do I
president?
do I have to go to Human Resources twice?
Exactly.
So I just like ampersands in titles personally, because that makes me feel really good about myself. I have multiple ones, but I'm excited to talk to you today all about cruising and your approach to cruising and leadership in the cruise industry, because a lot of the folks that we speak to are regular hotel industry people, and while there's some overlap, there's definitely a lot of things that you have to think about differently and approach in a totally different way. And maybe the best way to start this conversation is you launched a brand new ship, the first of a brand new classes of ship, right? The Celebrity Edge, which launched in December. I'm going to do that super vague thing. Tell me a little
Wow,
bit about that.
that's a big opening, huh? Big opening.
I know.
All right, so
I know. I want to make you feel comfortable before Anthony
Oh,
and I
all right,
pounce
all
with
right,
the
all
real
right.
questions.
Now, did you notice I haven't spoken yet? Really?
I, honestly, it's the proudest moment of my life, Anthony.
So first let me start with the fact that I started in the hotel industry before I came to cruising. And so I'm very familiar with hotels. And I remember way back then, 34 years ago, when I made the transition, I thought, it's the same thing. It's a floating hotel. What's the big deal?
Right.
Much different. Maybe we'll get into that in a little while. But
hope
I
we
have
do.
to tell you about Celebrity Edge because it's spectacular. It is the first time we got the opportunity to design a new ship in 10 years. First new series of ships we introduced in 6 years. And the industry around us has been delivering new ships, but it was really a proud day for us because of all the new ships coming out. It was the most anticipated ship of the year last year.
Wow, that's really fantastic.
Why did you come up with the name Celebrity Edge?
When we were thinking, we always have a project name when we're thinking about a new generation or a new series of ships. This ship was called Project Edge. And it really was about taking celebrity to the edge. We had this opportunity to do something new, different, innovative, and transformative. And so we felt like the name was very appropriate.
Who came up with the name?
The chairman and CEO came up with the name before I was appointed to this job. When I took this job, I realized that it was a perfect name for the project. And we even started over again and thinking about how we could even take it to the edge further. And ultimately decided to name the ship Celebrity Edge because we've never done that before. We've never named a ship after the project, but it just seemed so fitting.
So at what point did you get involved, and at what point was the design process of this class of ship?
I got involved when the design was just about done. But the good thing is that my very good friend and close colleague, Harry Kulavara, who's the executive vice president of the New Build organization, sat with me one day and I said, Harry, I think we can do this a little differently. Now that I'm here in this role, I would like to think about what this ship is going to mean to celebrity, and it probably means a big redesign. So for a year and a half, we redesigned the ship.
Holy cow. Holy cow. And you were able to do that? It didn't set you too far back? The folks above you weren't
a little bit.
Out?
No, well, they freaked out a little bit, but they also knew as we got into the process that it was just getting better and better. And so they actually were quite excited and very supportive. And listen, you see the result. It's crazy good.
So if I'm a guest and I come aboard, we're expecting you. I just want to go into the Love Boat theme. And I come aboard to the ship. What is the first wow moment?
When you look around, the design of this ship is extraordinary. Who
designed it?
It was a combination of people, but there we were
including Tom Wright, who designed.
Yeah, he was one of the architects that made a big difference in how this ship looks and feels and the features, whether it's the infinite veranda, the magic carpet, the rooftop garden, the resort deck. Tom did all of that. The martini glass shaped hot tubs. He's brilliant and he's amazing. And then we had Kelly Hoppen from the UK. We had Patricia Urquiola, who is in Spain. And we also had Scott Butler. And then we had Joan Mancou from France. It's Patrick Joan is French and Sanjeet Mancou is Canadian, and they are an amazing design firm that have done some beautiful work all over France and all over the world.
So you immediately noticed the design. What's the one amenity? Is there an amenity or something I wouldn't expect on the ship that's a wow? From a technology standpoint or just a comfort
I think
standpoint?
both. I think from a technology standpoint, we've really looked at how we use technology with Celebrity Edge in a powerful way to make the guest experience as seamless and frictionless as possible, whether it's facial recognition when you get on and off the ship, stateroom automation.
Yeah. So tell me about that, facial recognition.
So before you cruise, you download the app. We have a fabulous app. It's rated 4.7 on the Apple Store. And you sign up. You do everything that you need to before you go. You even take a selfie. You upload it into the app, and then when you get to the ship, you stand in front of the facial recognition. It recognizes you. There's a check mark, and you go.
So every time I come on and off the ship, there's no more showing my ID. There's no more showing my ID when I come on and off the ship. I just look in something and boom,
if you do what you need to do before you go, and this is when you get on the ship and off the ship at the beginning and end of your cruise. When you go in and out of port, you still tap your key. But it's very quick and you just go.
What's the purpose of it? What's the purpose of it on the way out? Just so you know when everyone's off.
When you leave the ship after your cruise, you need to check. You go through customs, so you have to do it for that. When you go in and out of port, we absolutely need to keep track of everyone who gets on and off. Yeah,
of course. Right. I've heard those stories about the people that don't make it back and then have to fly to the next
Yeah. No, we can't.
Not
very, honestly. No.
Most people get.
It depends how many people get stuck in Carlos.
Well, thankfully on Celebrity, that's not how it happens.
So what I found fascinating, and I'll tell a little backstory, is that yes, I was moderating a panel. You were on it for Forbes Travel Guide out in Beverly Hills. The verified event. And I was standing outside the hotel at the end of it. We were both going to the airport. We saw each other. We kind of waved. And you're like, where's your car? And I'm like, I don't know. It's not here yet. She goes, I'll give you a lift to the airport. So we both jumped in the car, in your Uber, and went to the airport. And that's where you and I became best friends. And one of the things in that 20-minute, 30-minute car ride that I remember was how fascinated you were when you started to really get into this business and understand how long, it takes to have to conceive what the ship is going to be, how long the ship, is going to take to build, but then how long it'll be in service. So you're talking a period of from the moment I think about a ship to the moment it retires could be what?
30.
How many years?
30 years.
30 years. So you have to be so smart and see the world. You have to be Jeff Bezos. You have to see the world 30 years beforehand and start the process. How?
The first thing we have to do is see the world 5 or 6 years from now, and as we all know, that's impossible. Things change at warp speed now. Consumer technology changes, consumer interests change, and we all know the consumer has the power, which is wonderful. So you have to think about what will our guests want and what is the future of our brand and where do we want to take ourselves. And then you have to think about, all right, it's 5 or 6 years, but then 10, 15, and 30. The good thing is that like now we're in the middle of what we're calling the celebrity revolution, where we're spending over $500 million to modernize the 9 ships in our existing fleet, that some of them are anywhere from 18 to 20 years old and some of them are 8 to 10 years old. But the great thing about redesigning a new ship is that it gives you ideas to go back to the other ships with.
Which I understand. We were learning that people were so enthusiastic about this new ship that some of the elements were now being retrofitted into more classic vessels.
What's the one thing that someone said, this is what the ships need to be ready for 20 years from now, 10 years from now, that maybe was some argument or some discussion about? Was there anything that was like almost a little bit too far-fetched?
The thing that we did that was the most innovative and transformational were the infinite verandas. And I don't know that we were worried about them 10 or 20 years from now. We were actually worried about them when we introduced the ship, to say this is a completely different view of how these staterooms can be designed so that we give guests extra space and maintain their veranda experience.
What is the veranda?
So it's like a balcony on your room. So if you
which I think is the coolest thing.
So what we've done is we've actually made that veranda or balcony part of the stateroom, which gives the guests 23% more space in their room. And then what you can do is there are bifold French doors, beautiful doors. You can close those, and you can segregate that part of your stateroom. And with the push of a button, the window comes down to balcony height. And now you're enjoying your balcony. When you're not interested in enjoying your balcony, then you get that as part of your living space.
So if there's some inclement weather or something, you just lower the windows but still have that veranda balcony experience.
Yeah, not with inclement weather. We have to keep those windows closed.
Well, I was saying they should be closed. They
should be closed. Yes. But you still get to enjoy the space.
Which is the point I was pointing at.
But it was really innovative.
One of the things, there's a couple things that fascinate me about it. But one of the things that, because just knowing you very little that I know you, I would imagine that employee comfort is very important to you. So on a ship, I would imagine the one reason I would have never worked on a ship is because I'm a comfort guy, and I just can't be hanging out with 5 people and sleeping in that environment. I just can't be doing it. I was in the military, and I got promoted really quickly on purpose because I just wanted my own room. And so what is that experience like on a ship, on an edge ship? Like, what have you thought about from a employee standpoint?
I'm really glad I'm here, Anthony, because it has been decades since 5 people slept in a room. And so the rooms.
Thank you.
So I want all the listeners to know that.
Thank you for making me seem old.
No, but your experience is one that, and I'm not saying it never happened, but we've made a lot of progress in terms of the crew areas. Even when we designed our new terminal in Port Everglades, it's the first terminal that was ever built that the crew has the same wonderful experience that the guests have.
Wow, that's amazing.
And I was really insistent on that because the crew is the most important.
They work so hard in all the time.
So how's that?
So what happened with Celebrity Edge? It was the first time that we brought 11 crew members from all over the fleet into a place and said, how would you like your areas to be? And they said, we always talk about modern luxury, and Celebrity is a modern luxury brand for the guests. But when you go into the crew areas, they're designed very differently. Not that they're not comfortable. They just don't have the same look and feel. So we designed a whole modern luxury. We took a whole modern luxury approach to the crew accommodations. We gave them just about everything that they asked for. The rooms are comfortable. The design is the same. The color palette. And every crew member that I talked to, whether they worked for our company or even some of our concessionaires like the gift shops and the spas, said they've never seen accommodations like this.
And it makes them. That's a big statement. I would imagine because you're out there. That's a huge statement about me as an employee that you care. So if I'm I'm a desk clerk at the front desk, right? How many people am I in a room with?
At the most,
How
one.
many do I have to share with?
Yeah.
One.
At the most.
At the most. So it's just me and somebody else. And we have our own
facilities,
restroom, own facilities, and it's just how much smaller or size is it compared to the smallest guest room?
I don't have the exact dimensions. They are smaller, but there's only one or two to a room, and everybody has private.
But it's not like sleeping on a submarine.
No, that I guarantee. No.
Although I think you could create a celebrity submarine experience and get premium pricing on that. I do want to say that I think that's a smart approach. It's also a smart approach in a selfish kind of way because it really does engage your employees a lot more, and it lowers the amount of people that are going to be leaving every single month. Hilton Hotels, for example, has spent a lot of money renovating back of houses to make them more like front of house, and they're seeing real differences and saving millions and millions in replacement costs.
We want to be the employer of choice in the cruise industry.
And so, how hard is it to find people to work on?
I think, you have to be purposeful about the types of people you're looking for, the places you want them to be from. It depends on which part of the ship that they will be working. So you might look in Europe for chefs, and you might look in different countries for other positions. But we have hiring partners that we've worked with for many, many years that help us find the best people in hospitality all over the world.
And what's the if somebody comes on the ship to work, they're working how many months?
It depends if you're the captain or the chief engineer. That's 3 months. If you're a hotel director or another officer on the hotel side of the business, it's 4 months on, 2 months off. Captains and chief engineers 3 and 3,
and it's straight. It's
3 months straight.
Yep. 1 month straight. You don't go home for a second.
But then I like that
part. Because I feel like I've been working 3 months
I know
straight
exactly
anyway.
with no 3 months off. I know. I feel the same way. And other crew members 6 months on and 2 months off.
And they get a paycheck.
Yes,
for those
vacation
2 months
pay. Yes, yep.
The same paycheck they would get if they were on the ship.
So what does that do for relationships with people on teams? Because in a hotel, you're working with a person day in, day out, all year round. Here, you've got to get used to, I guess, 2 or 3 different sets of people that you may.
Yes, and the other thing is you don't go home. You all live in the same city and it's always amazing to me.
You just go downstairs. You
just go downstairs. And we have over 60 countries represented on our ships. By our crew. And they come on the ship as strangers and they quickly become family. They're taking care of our guests. They're taking care of each other. They're from...
Now I know why they call it the Love Boat.
Right? No. Oh, maybe. I don't know. I don't want to know about that. But I think the world can take a great lesson from cruise ships and how people...
I think so too. I was just thinking when we're talking about geopolitical relationships, maybe we could get the leaders of all these opposing countries to work on a cruise ship.
I think it's a great idea, Glenn. I really do. I'm all for it.
Hey, stop laughing.
No, I just think of one person on that cruise ship with all the others. I can't. There would be no ship left.
Or no them left. Or no them left.
So we talked, I think, about creating the right atmosphere for your employees. How does that turn into creating the right experience?
Well, I think we all know, regardless of the industry, when your employees are happy, they have a tendency to ensure that your guests are happy. And I also believe as a leader that when people know you care about them, genuinely care about them, you get that in return, and you also get a discretionary or incremental effort that I believe is priceless.
And you also, what I find is you get information that you normally wouldn't get. Because especially I would imagine when you get on the ship, the king, queen music, it all kind of starts playing and everybody gets very nervous. So to get information from someone in a real way when they're putting you on a pedestal, I would imagine your ability and your own comfort with yourself really translates to them and they're able to talk to you.
People tell me everything. Or most things. Most things.
Which is completely abnormal to tell the CEO and president anything.
That's important.
Why?
How did you build that trust?
well, first of all, you build trust one experience at a time, right? And no matter what, I've been with this brand on and off for almost 15 years now. So people know that they can trust me. They know that I will support them. They know that whatever they tell me will be used in the best possible way.
And if they tell you something you disagree with, they know you'll tell them
absolutely.
the truth.
Right. But just to give a note to the listeners, you said you've been with this brand mostly for the last 15 years, but with the
34
company for a lot longer than that, because the company owns multiple brands, including Royal Caribbean.
So how many brands do they own? Which brands are they?
Wholly owned, Royal Caribbean International, Celebrity Cruises, Azamara Club Cruises, and Silver Seas. Yep.
Okay. So if I can kind of go in a little bit different direction, I'm looking at Glenn for
just wondering where you're going to go.
Me too. Me too.
Never needed that before. I know.
Okay. Well, we know that in the cruise lines, presidents and CEO are mostly women. Right?
I don't know.
Is that true?
In the cruise,
I
it's
know that
completely false.
It's completely a false statement. She's a unicorn. So tell me about that. Like, what I've had, having 3 girls, like, I am so, just honored to be here, because it's one thing if you're a CEO and president, you're a man to be in charge. But I'm sorry, but you had to do so much more. You had to work so much harder and be so different to get there. Now, a lot of men are listening and saying, Anthony, come on. Because I support women a lot. A lot of times I get from my own friends, it's like, why do you always say men suck and women are the best? I said, because I believe it. But I get a lot of flack about that. But I truly believe you had to do, how hard was it to get here? And why you and not 20 other women?
Well, the good thing is because I've been in the company for 34 years, I've done so many jobs or had held so many positions and been responsible for so many different aspects of our business. I believe after the 30 years that it took me to ascend to this position, it gave me a lot of experience, and I was able to prove and get these stellar results all along the way, which ultimately prepared me in a really great way for this position. What I will say is that my counterpart at Royal Caribbean was also with the company for a very long time, probably 28 or 29 years before he became a president and CEO. So I'm not sure its longevity that I realized was different. But what I will say is I asked for this position 3 times before I finally got it. And I guarantee you he didn't.
Right.
And I don't know what it was that made that happen or caused that to be the case. But I believe that I had to fight harder for this position.
The question I have is, how did you have the cojones, so to speak, to stick around and ask that second time and third time? Because my ego would have said, I'm not good enough. It's time to pack it up and go.
So I often say that in my DNA, it is something that is triggered when someone tells me no. That I am determined to turn it into a yes.
Find a way
or make a way. Yes. How do you know that? A little birdie told you that. That's my thing. Find a way or make a way.
And I think that's that to me is on my tombstone. It's going to be passion changes everything, and that's yours. It's find a way and make a way. And so when that happens, because as much as I support women and really support anyone that works hard, I never had a perspective that it's harder for you than it is for me. And I don't know if that's true or not true. Because if you work around me, and if you were the supervisor in a hotel of mine, actually being a woman actually helps you, because I just think they're smarter, sharper, quicker. They don't want to raise their hand every 5 seconds and say, "Look at me," like most men I know. They're like, don't disrespect. Glenn's a handful.
I bet.
But it's like don't disrespect me and don't abuse me. But we did that great. What's our next task? And you seem to be very much that person. Like, what's the mission in front of us? So what do you tell a young lady? My daughters, my 3 daughters who are trying to make a way.
So when I think about it, what I really believe is that the reason that I probably had to ask 3 times is because for the 30 years before that, I probably wasn't ambitious enough or aggressively ambitious enough, and I use the word aggressively in the nicest possible way.
You mean more in the I think that the sense of how men usually jockey to
and
get to the top.
and they're front and center all the time. So by the time those decisions are being made, it's like, of course, they don't even have to ask. And I think the reason that I probably had to ask is because of the time before that. So what I say to anybody, but women mostly, is you need to declare, and you need to raise your hand, and you need to just go for it. And I probably waited a little too long to declare.
I love that word because I haven't heard that word in a long time when it comes to personal empowerment. Declare. What does that mean to you?
That means state what you want or state what you're going to do. And make sure you state it to the right people.
Because that's a big word. I'm making a declaration.
Yep.
I'm declaring my, right. It's almost like staking a claim to a piece of property. It's like, this is my property, and I'm staking my claim. And I just find I'm gonna remember that word for a long time and use it a lot. And I think that's what most people, even again, men or women, when a lot of my male friends, they're like, well, it's not fair. It's not fair. It's like, listen, when you're born, they should hand you a card that says life's not fair. It should be in gold. And you should have to basically wear that every single day around your neck. Life isn't fair. And my answer to that is, your point is, right. But again, you have to declare. It's like life's not fair, but who cares?
So what does that practically mean when you declare? Because you're not going to tell some young person that they should go into the boss and say, one day I'm going to have your job.
I think declaration happens at different intervals. You have to declare something. The first thing you have to declare is, I want this position, and that's what I did 34 years ago. And then I wasn't even hired the first time I applied, and I had to come back and do it all over again and find a way or make a way, because I really felt like I wanted to work in this company 34 years ago, and here's how it worked out. But it's different. You're declaring different things at different intervals. I think it's probably a little arrogant to say, I want your job in 10 years. I also think that shows a little bit of impatience, but I do believe that each step of the way, and the other thing I believe is your journey takes different direction, which a lot of people don't understand. And so you have to kind of go with it as well.
And I think some people, especially as you said, the new generation is very impatient. And I'm impatient. I've been impatient my whole life. But one of the things that I find, just because you declare something, and I'd like to really know your take on this, I'm still sometimes taken advantage of, right? We all are. And there's a difference between being taken advantage of and you're kind of clueless to it, and being taken advantage of when you know you're being taken advantage of, but you both win. I try to explain that to people, and they don't understand it. So how would you explain that?
Well, I also look at that as somewhat compromise is similar to that in my estimation, because again, you have to think about what you want. What's your end game? I always say start with the end in mind. And if you're starting with the end in mind and you know what you want as a result, sometimes it might come across that you're being taken advantage of, but in your own mind, what you're doing or what you're giving into or what you're letting happen, as long as it doesn't compromise who you are, is ethical and good. Does it really matter? I mean, honestly, does it really matter? And sometimes you have to make those distinctions so that in the end your brand wins, your team wins, you win, the world wins, somebody wins.
And I think that there is the secret. I think the secret is know when someone's crossing the line, and know when it's appropriate to cross the line. There's many times where I've had to work 7 days a week, 18 hours a day, and I didn't see my family, and my boss was, always on top of me, and we had a big mission to accomplish, and I knew if I accomplished the mission, I win the Super Bowl, right? And I think that that's what people need to understand. And I think there's two things at play. There's that instant gratification, and then there's that you have to be in for the long haul. And one of the things, and I don't know if this kind of translates to what we're talking about, one of the things I find fascinating, I actually like your take on it too, Glenn, is what I find fascinating with the human experience, the human mind right now is everybody wants everything immediately. However, the biggest thing that's happening in our world right now is long-form podcast.
Right.
How is that? So the reason I say that is because it kind of translates to what we're talking about. It's like, I want instant gratification. I don't want to be taken advantage of. I want what I want now, but you got to be in for the long haul. I'm an impatient guy, even though I'm impatient. And that's kind of contradictory, but it's true. So how are we, a society, to be able to get ahead but still put in the work? Does that make any sense?
It makes a lot of sense.
And we're going to go to commercial.
We have to go to commercial break. That's why I'm sitting here waving my fingers around, because this conversation is going fast and furious, and it's already been 30 minutes. But we do have to take a break, so we'll be right back after this message. Hey everybody, Glenn here. So listen to this. Cobblestone Hotels is celebrating their 10th anniversary, and man, have they accomplished a lot in the last decade. Already they have more than 150 hotels throughout the United States, but they're in smaller and medium-sized markets. Those markets that the big franchise companies, they're underserving, they're overlooking, and in some cases just ignoring. But Cobblestone is an expert in these markets. And their president and CEO, Brian Wagernes, listen, I've gotten to know him in the last 10 years, and he has worked every job possible, including being an owner and operator. I can personally vouch for how awesome this company is, how awesome he is as an individual, because he understands the importance of finding the right combination of hotel brand and franchise owner. He's also an incredibly dedicated professional. Whether it's a Cobblestone Hotel and Suites Main Street design, Borders Inn and Suites, or one of the newly acquired brands such as Boulders Inn and Suites, Key West Inns, Centerstone Inns and Suites, Cobblestone has brands that range from economy to upper mid-tier, and one that's right for you. Quite simply, Cobblestone Hotels is the franchise for franchise owners. Patrick Mullenix, well, he's Cobblestone's new president of franchise development. Give him a call or check out their website at cobblestonefranchising.com. But give Patrick a call. He's a great guy. I've known him for a really, really long time, too. You can find him at 920-216-0620. That's cobblestonefranchising.com. And tell him Glenn sent you. All right, and we are back from commercial break. So following up on what you were saying, Anthony, it's very interesting, and I really do want to hear what you have to say, Lisa, but I kind of feel like it's two separate tracks, and I think that reason why people like long-form podcasts is because it really fulfills a sense that we need to learn a little bit more. And then we're not getting that in our day-to-day life. Everything has become so fractured and short form and boom, 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 boom. And society is telling us that that's what all we have the patience for, that we can't handle these long-form things. But I completely disagree. I think people want things that are super short and things that are much more longer and in-depth. I think it's that middle that we're losing out on. I think that's why people like to binge watch TV shows and they want to watch a 2-minute video on YouTube. And when it applies to your career, I also think, and I know you're going to say they're more tied together than I do, but I think that your short-term goals all lead up to creating that long-term arc of your career. So I think you can have it both ways. How do you see it?
I completely agree. I think that's exactly what's going on. And what's interesting to me about even long form podcasts is you have flexibility with them. And I really think that that's one of the things that people really love about it. You can be working out, you can be driving in the car, you can be walking the dog, and you can listen to these amazing podcasts while you're doing all of those things versus being stuck in front of a screen watching something or listening to something.
And I'll tell you what, we were doing this years ago. It's just we were listening to AM radio, right? Yes. And we were listening to what we were told we had to hear because there was only a limited selection. Now, in our era of personalization, which I know we could bring back to the experiences on celebrity cruise ships, we can find the things that we're most interested in learning about and participating out and having a more meaningful, in-depth relationship with when it comes to content. Right. And that's why I love these kinds of conversations, Anthony.
So what is the 2019 cruise guest looking for? I'd imagine they're looking to escape, but also looking to stay connected. How do you handle that?
Well, again, it goes back to flexibility and choice and balance, right? When people vacation, it's not about being disconnected. It's being able to know they're going to stay connected. For cruise ships, it's a unique challenge and opportunity because, as you know, these big floating steel structures around the world, it's a little more difficult, or has been in the past, a little more difficult to get the satellites and the bandwidth, but that's not the case anymore. And so so our guests are able to stay as connected as they want or disconnect as much as they want.
Is there a trend?
Oh, they're much more connected.
That's too bad.
Yeah, they're much more connected.
When you go through a dining room at night and there's a family of 5, are they on their phones?
No. I think that's probably the difference. They are on vacation, and one of the things that we see so much now is family travel, multi-generational family travel, parents and children. We all get to spend not enough time together anymore. Everybody in this room probably knows that. And the vacation is one time that you can do that, and cruising is just perfect for that.
I did a family cruise a number of years ago when my dad was with us and my parents, and it was such a meaningful experience because we blocked out all of the world that was around us, and we were really able to connect in a much more substantial way, I think. And I kept my internet usage to that first hour after I woke up to touch base with work and take care of stuff, and then I swore it all off.
Yep.
But what about business? Are people coming and doing events on ships these days?
Some are, yes, absolutely. MICE, we call it MICE business, meeting, incentive, and corporate travel. We do a lot of that. And when you talk about even the connection in technology, a lot of people they're Instagramming, they're communicating they're sharing their experience. And so the ability to stay connected is really important. So when I say everyone wants to be connected, it's because they want to be able to talk to people who aren't necessarily with them so they can see what an amazing time that they're having.
And that goes back into the whole societal trends of people want to have bragging rights with the experiences that they have, the look at me kind of attitude.
In the last week, 2 young ladies from different colleges have fallen to their deaths for taking an Instagram picture. One here at Fordham up in Bronxville, and another young lady somewhere in her college. She was on some kind of I don't know, some kind of ledge, and she was trying to get the right shot, and she fell. So I think people they're so about making that experience look bigger and better, and it's constant. Do you see that on cruise ships where people just snapping selfies constantly?
People are yes, they're doing it in a much safer way. Thank God, thank goodness. But they are there. We have on Celebrity Edge. We were just talking about this yesterday. We have these beautiful butterfly wings by our pool out on the resort deck. That is the most Instagrammed image of that ship by far.
And did you build it to make it Instagrammable?
No, we had no idea. Right. We actually bought that piece of art and installed it because the other pieces of art that we had originally planned, we couldn't get in time for the ship, so we substituted it. And now it turns out it was the best decision we ever made by accident.
Right. And you know what's so funny? One of the greatest things that I think I've seen in a long time is when Hard Rock decided to build the Qatar in Hollywood. Right? The Hard Rock Hotel.
Yeah, be sure to check back on our show that we did with a couple of the executives from Hard Rock. I think that's episode 646-ish.
It's going to be the most Instagrammed hotel in the world. Absolutely. Because the outside of that hotel is everything you need to know. You don't need to know anything about what's going on inside.
Yeah, they just did that in Hollywood, Florida, too.
Hollywood, Florida. Yeah. So one of the things that I think I'd be remiss in not asking you is, in the hotel business, I remember our Uber ride. You said that you were in the sales and marketing in the hotel business. Mm-hmm. And most women, unfortunately, most of those positions in our industry are filled with women. And very rarely do you ever see a woman going from a sales and marketing position to the top dog position, to the CEO, president, to the person large and in charge. One, why is that? And two, how can a young lady who's now listening to this, who's a director of marketing or sales at a hotel, how can they make the transition when they want to be the general manager or the vice president?
It's a good question, and I never thought about it that way, but you're right. And one of the things I think about even, in my own career and even in our own company, is the people who declare that is a position that they are interested in at some point in their career, probably not when they first start or within the first few years. There are certain things that you need to know or do before you get into these roles, because this industry is very complicated. We started with that premise, and it could be a whole nother podcast on how complicated this business is. You need to be willing to do other things. And you need to have a sponsor and an advocate who's going to help you get there. Because it is infrequent that people think, oh, I can take someone from sales and marketing and put them in operations. But that's exactly what my sponsor and advocate did,
right,
back in 2005. And that was really what catapulted me to finally end up in this role.
Explain a sponsor and advocate, because I think that's so important.
It's so important.
Explain that.
A sponsor and advocate is someone that believes in you and is going to help you achieve your career aspirations.
Right.
It's different than a mentor.
And they have a vested interest in helping you succeed. And they have a vested
interest, and you need a sponsor and advocate that has a tremendous amount of respect and influence in your organization.
Right.
In the military, after you're a light colonel, which is a lieutenant colonel, to become a colonel, you need a sponsor. But really where you need a sponsor is going from colonel to general. Mm-hmm. If you don't have a sponsor, you're not getting a 1-star. Right. And when you get to a 1-star, your sponsor better be strong enough to pull you up to 4-star, because most people don't get there.
Yep.
Same thing in the police department, where people say, oh, it's so political. After captain, if you don't have a sponsor or an advocate, it's not political. It's just people in powerful positions think you're powerful.
Exactly. And they can convince other people you're powerful. Right. And that's, what happens with these types of roles. You have a sponsor and advocate, but they need to have enough credibility to sit with the governing body, if you will, that is going to make these decisions, because no one person makes a decision about who's going to be a president and CEO, or even a senior vice president in our company. You have to have broad support. So your sponsor needs to have broad support and a good sphere of influence.
So you're in an influential position. If I was someone in your company and you don't know who I am, what's the quickest way for you to know who I am?
If you're put forward by a sponsor or an advocate, and I'm one of the people who has to say yay or nay, or I don't really know who they are, then what we do is we go back to the plan. And the plan is you need to sit with Lisa for, once a month, once a quarter, have lunch so that she can get to know you and what you've done, and sort of present yourself to her so that she can see what it is that you've done and why someone feels so strongly they're sponsoring or advocating you for a position.
Right. I want to go back to the whole notion of women taking certain roles in sales and marketing, whatever it might be.
Human resources.
All right. Right. And also public relations. Now, I tend to think it's more of a self-selection process than it is a society's telling you these are the only roles that you could take, like in the 1960s where it was like teacher, nurse, et cetera, et cetera. Maybe I'm partially wrong, but I think based on human experience that women seem to be more suited for certain positions where men seem to be suited for other types of positions. I say that in vast generalizations because everyone is an individual, but that seems to be the trend I'm seeing. How on target or off target am I?
Well, I think there's probably a nuance to what you said that I believe. Right. It's where women see themselves and where men see themselves.
That's a fascinating point.
And so I believe that women see themselves in sales and marketing roles or different roles.
So they may not even from early childhood envision themselves in the role that you currently have, because of whatever was going on, society guided them psychologically without them even realizing it, that they had fewer options.
Yes, because nor did I ever see myself in this role. Nor did I ever see myself in operations. I had one ambition when I started in this company.
To be on our podcast.
Well, see, no, because if I didn't have this job, I never would have met you and been able to be on this podcast. So that aspiration limited me to even sitting here with you today. All I wanted to be was the vice president of sales. I worked for 17 years and progressed and progressed and progressed so that was my pot of gold, the vice president of sales. And my sponsor and advocate moved me out of sales before I ever got that job and put me in a different role in marketing though, Glenn. So I'm still in sales and marketing, right. But that same advocate brought me over to operations in 2005. And in 1985, when I started my career, I never saw myself 20 years later in operations. And my operational journey led me to this job. Had I not been moved into those roles by my sponsor and advocate because I was looking for a different opportunity that he felt I could do, then I would not be here today.
So what was your emotional state when you knew you had to move to operations? How secure or insecure were you?
So I was fine and secure moving to operations. I was devastated moving to marketing because, I had that one goal and now that one goal was taken away from me. And I knew at that time I'm never going to do that. And that was my dream. And that was a big recalibration and readjustment for me. But that's why I tell people, be flexible, because what he says to me now is, you remember how you felt when I moved you over to marketing? And I said, yes. And he he says it in a sarcastic way. And then he looks at me and says, how'd that work out for you? So, sometimes people see things in you that you don't see in yourself. So I
could never be honest with you, just again, knowing you for 3 seconds. I don't see you as director of sales and marketing. Yeah. I see you as a person that just I just want to be on the train. I just want to know where you're going. I don't know where we're going, but I just want to know where you're going.
Oh, that's so beautiful. Thank you.
And I mean that. But to go back, one of the things, you declared at some point, I'm going to be the president CEO. But to go back to your point, Glenn, yeah. It's how do you get into sales and how do you get new resources? Is it self-selected or is it what people think you should do? Well, going back 20, 30, 40 years ago, when you're trying to sell something, you want pretty people to sell it for you. And even out, right? And people are always looking for pretty people. Right. And there's a lot more pretty women than there are men. And I think somehow that's just been a long time where you put the pretty person, in a position to influence people to buy your product. Do you think that has anything to do with it?
I don't know, because I know a lot of guys that are in sales, and I probably know more men that are in sales than women, but that might just be a percentage game of people in the workforce.
I'm talking specifically in hospitality.
Yeah, I am too. I'm thinking about the vendors I work with, but at the property level, I do think there are more females in sales and marketing positions.
Do you think that has anything to do with
suppliers?
I never thought about that. Mm-hmm. I really never thought about it in that way. I think it might have something to do with it, but I also really believe it's what roles people see themselves in, mm-hmm. and then what roles they then pursue. Mm-hmm. And I think that we stereotype ourselves probably to a great degree, even more than society or others.
So how did you escape that trap?
I never thought of gender in my whole career. I guess I ended up in sales, but I just thought it was something I was really good at, convincing people to do something or buy something, and just the way I try to interact with people. And my drive and ambition and being results oriented. Sales is a great profession for that. I never in my entire career ever thought of gender. The one time it smacked me in the face was when I moved from sales and marketing over to operations, which is why I work so hard to rebalance the gender on my brand as it relates to the operational side of our business.
You hired the first ever female captain.
First American female captain for
First
American captain ever, woman. First woman captain ever for celebrity.
Wow.
Yeah, that was the first thing I did
when I became
CEO.
So. And that's what's great when you have, a
power
female,
and influence. Yeah,
power and influence. You have to help everyone else.
And qualified women.
But you said something we were talking about, does gender kind of decide what role sometimes? And you said, well, gender's never come, and I think you said that on the panel too, which really surprised me. You said gender's never really held me back. If anything, I've had more help from men than women. I think it was you or somebody else on the panel. I won't put words in your mouth. But then you said the time gender did come up is when I went from sales to operations.
Right.
Well, why?
Well, because it's run by all men, and I want to qualify that because at the time, I believe there are Renaissance men and Neanderthal men. The unfortunate thing for me at the time was they were all You two decide which is which.
Right.
But at the time, it was all Neanderthal men I was working with, and they really didn't want me on the team. And they made that very clear. I wasn't even invited to my boss's leadership meeting every morning.
Wow.
And I was a vice president that worked for him. So
how do you not get angry and you just get even?
I was both.
I should say, how do you make the way?
I was both.
No, how do you get even?
I was
Brooklyn.
I was angry and I got even, and I just said, you know what? I don't care. I'm just going to do what I was hired to do and do it really well. And 6 months later, he wasn't there anymore. And about a year, another 6 months after that, I was in that role. And I think part of it is because what I brought to the culture, and part of it was because of my results.
But I'm going to hold you accountable for that statement. You said, I don't care. Oh my God. You cared, because if you didn't care, you wouldn't be here.
True.
It's
true.
Like,
I cared. I used it. I used my resentment and turned it into ambition.
I think that is the gold right there. That's the gold I want people to understand. Take that moment when you say you don't care. Of course you care, but turn it inward and then just light that fire.
Use it for fuel.
That is so, because so many people blow themselves up at that point.
Right. When she says I don't care, she means she doesn't care what they think. She will not allow them to lock her into a box.
But there's a lot being said in those words, I don't care.
Absolutely.
Because what I want people to understand is when you say I don't care, there's several things can happen. You quietly start sabotaging yourself because you're like, well, maybe I'm not good enough. Well, maybe I don't belong here.
Well, that depends. It's like, I don't care or I don't care. It depends on how you look at it.
Well, I'm sorry. Was I talking while you were interrupting?
Yeah, would you please stop doing that?
You're both right. Okay, you're both right.
No, it's not about being right, but
it is.
But it's critical.
Again,
I guess because I'm hypersensitive right now because I see all three of my girls who are at a point where they're going into adulthood. Yeah. It's like I'm hypersensitive about this, and it's the moment that could kill you. It's happened in my career, but then you fuel yourself. And I think it's important for someone in your position to be able to identify that so we can use it to in a toolkit to help other people. Well,
it happened to me multiple times in my career. That wasn't the only one. The first time was when I was moved from sales to marketing and thought my career was over. I was angry and I used it for fuel to say, okay, you're going to derail that dream that I had, but you know what? I'm going to prove that I can do this just as well as I did that. And I internalized it and I turned it into find a way or make a way and positive ambition and did really well. And then I just kept going and going and going.
Another word, you're using a lot of good stuff that I'm going to write down. Positive ambition, right? Because there's being positive and not having ambition, or being ambitious but not being positive. Mm-hmm. If you don't have them both together, you're not going nowhere.
I don't think you are. And if you do go somewhere, you're not doing it in the best way possible.
And one of the things that, and I'm learning this as I get older, I don't care how smart you are. How many people have asked you what college you went to and what GPA you have in your career?
No. I can count on one hand.
Right. I can count on zero hands because no one's ever asked me.
People ask me a lot about what college I went to, but always in the context of sports, never academics.
Right.
There you go.
Right.
Okay.
That's a good point. Oh, I went to Harvard. Right. Their football team sucks.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
But my point being is showing up on time, being prepared mentally, not always having everything in your toolkit, but just being, okay, boss, what are we doing today? That sounds exciting. I always say it this way. If I give you a report that you weren't expecting, the person that says, hey, thank you very much. And then you go home and go, I have an opportunity to now learn something else about my job. But then 90% of the people, and I'll put 90%, even though that's an extreme number, because I've seen it, get that report, look at you and go, oh, okay, I'll take that done. I'll take that. And then when they walk away, they're like, oh, I got to get this report. And the 10% of the people that go home and learn something from it are the people that can be CEO and president. Mm-hmm. Period. End of story. Because that's positive ambition. The person that walks away and goes, they just have ambition. Is a difference. And I think that is so critical.
And I've learned a lot in my career that I didn't know because I've been put into a lot of jobs that were not my field of expertise. First one was marketing, operations, marine, hotel, marine, I run the Global Marine Organization. I'm not a subject matter expert. I know a lot. I know a lot more than most, but you also hire amazing people to work with you every day. And
I've never been qualified for the jobs I've been given. Ever. I have never been properly qualified.
And now that I work with him, I can totally attest to that.
I have never been properly qualified. It's like you're going to host and produce and create a TV show, and you're going to be over 10 years. Like, how do I do that?
Isn't that life though? Is finding opportunity and taking opportunity and growing into those roles?
Yeah.
Yeah. I when I get in those roles, there's a word for the first couple of months that I say to myself all the time. And it starts with an M and an F. And I just keep saying that to myself. And I'm like, how do I do this? And I say those words and I just grunt internally and I cry. I do a lot of crying. And I'm like, how do I get there? But again, it's that positive, just ambition. Yeah. But I think if you're not putting yourself in positions that are uncomfortable, all the time. I had a kid, real quick. I had a kid that DM'd me. Any kid that DMs me, and wants information, I give him my number. So I give him my cell number. He calls me up. I'm in the car driving somewhere, and I think I was in California. And he started to whine. Oh, nothing hate more than people who are moody and whiners. And he goes, but I said, do me a favor. I want you to do me a favor, and the conversation's going to end. I'm not going to answer any of your questions. Get a small pebble. Put it in your shoe. Call me in 3 days. That's all I said. And click. Swear to God. I said, he calls me up a month later. He goes, hey, it's so-and-so. I say, oh, yeah, you're the guy with the pebble. Did you do it? He goes, yeah, I'm good. Thank you so much for the advice. I get it. That was the end of the conversation.
Huh.
That was it. I didn't say stop whining. I didn't say any of that stuff. I was like, dude, walk around being uncomfortable all the time, and you will understand that there's nothing. You'll never be comfortable because the second you are, someone's going to crush you.
Yeah, true.
I mean, you're a CEO and president. Are you comfortable?
Never. Not one day. On this couch, a little bit, but no, not usually. No.
I got to say, it does look like a nice couch. All right, so this is turning into like the world's longest podcast that we've ever done. I feel like we're getting into Joe Rogan territory, which is fine by me. I could speak for another.
No, it's never fine by you. This is why we're going to get divorced.
No,
we're going to get divorced.
No, it is fine by me. I'm really enjoying this conversation.
We have one of the most powerful women in business.
I'm not trying to end the conversation.
Okay, we have one of the most powerful women in business. That doesn't look like she's running away from us.
She's not. I'm not trying to stop the conversation. I'm trying to introduce a new topic and warn the listeners that we're not going anywhere. And if you've already walked the dog, hit pause, come back the next time you have to walk the dog or the second half of your commute. Come back to this conversation because I do want to talk a little bit about what it was like being honored by CLIA with a Lifetime Achievement Award. What was that feeling like? And did you feel you deserved it?
First of all, explain to the audience what the award is.
It's a Cruise Line Industry Association.
Yes.
So Lifetime Achievement Award. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. Yes. CLIA is the biggest association that is in your industry.
It is, yes, and it is the votes are done by people that I've worked with for my entire career, which is also really lovely. So I felt overwhelmed. I was surprised. I was grateful. And I, as I look back on my career, I think I have made a significant contribution that I was thrilled that that group recognized.
So you allowed yourself to feel good? Because I find that difficult in my life to be reflective about actual achievements and not feel good about that. I always feel like you just got to keep moving forward, and it's really hard to take any positivity as it comes.
Well, you have to achieve something, Glenn.
Great point.
Oh, wow.
Great point. I can't even get angry. When it's a good burn, it's a good burn.
So, well, here's the thing. The one problem I had with it, and which I said in my acceptance speech, or comments, is that it's really hard to accept an individual award when so much of what you have accomplished in your career is because of so many other people other than yourself. And so I used great a great football analogy for all of my commentary, and talked about the fact that I'm just the quarterback. I throw the ball, but I don't receive it. Sometimes the offense has a bad day and the defense has to step up. So anything that I've accomplished is really, and even the fans that fill the stadiums or fill the seats, and those were all the people in the room, the fans. And so, I really tried to take the honor and give it back to all of the people in the room and throughout my career that were responsible for me standing up there.
And what's interesting about that analogy is because as the quarterback, the linebacker doesn't see what's behind them or in front of them or in the stands. So as the quarterback, you have to see everything.
Yep.
And I think the greatest gift for a CEO or president is to see everything.
Yep.
And not to get sacked. You have to feel that person behind you.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you also have to know that, if, like Super Bowl 53, if the offense is just not having the best day, it's all up to the defense to win the game. And so sometimes as the quarterback, you're running the offense and it doesn't always work. And you need to know that there are other people within the organization that are going to step up and still help you win the game.
Right. And to be able to fill that hole, to know that one person that keeps letting that person sack you, if that person either isn't removed or gets better training, you're never going to win.
You're never going to win because you got to be standing upright to throw the pass.
Yeah. And I think that's a great analogy because it really fits into really any business.
Right.
And I think in too many businesses, we allow that one person, that's just one person. Well, that one person can destroy you.
Sure. Only as strong as your weakest link.
100%. But when you got the award, because I've learned, it's taken me a long time. I've always been appreciative and respectful of my teams. But now I literally, when people give me an award, or matter of fact, I won't go into it, but someone wanted to give me an award and I wouldn't accept it for a number of reasons. And one of the things was I just didn't feel like there was too many people that deserved that award before I did. Mm-hmm. And I'm now finally at 53 years old, really understand when people are like, oh no, it's not about me, it's about team. It's like, yeah, but it really is about you. I'm really starting to understand, oh my God, I am so insignificant. When I look at all the people that have helped me in my career, person we talked about before, off camera that and I know, that said something to me that was really funny one day, but really made me understand that maybe I was doing something that was important. And so I think that's only when you achieve something and you get older can you really understand how insignificant you are.
Mm-hmm. That's true. And the other thing I felt was, damn, I'm not done yet.
Right. I'm too young.
This is a lifetime. And that's what I said at the end. I'm like, I'm not done yet, folks. I got a little more to give.
I want another one.
I'll be back.
So it's a double-edged sword. I mean, it's great.
Yeah.
It's great, but it's also like, thanks very much.
I know. Like, it was a Hall of Fame award. I'm like, in the NFL, if you win Hall of Fame, you're retired. I'm like, baby, I got a long way to go. I still have a lot to do.
A lot of people that are in college now are graduating or early in their career. And, one of the things people say to me is, well, hotel business, hospitality business, what does that mean? Travel business, what does that mean? What does that mean? The travel industry, the travel business. Gosh. Is there anything better?
Nothing. And I talk about this all the time, and it's the thing, the premise that we built Celebrity on is that, 5 years ago we took a position that we open up the world to people. One of the great things about the cruise industry is that we are in 7 continents, 300 ports. We travel all over the globe. We open cultures. We reject closing ourselves off or not wanting to experience other people, cultures, religions, gender, sexual orientations. Our business is just the opposite of that. And in my mind, that's what enriches us as human beings. And that's what our memories are created with each other, with our families. There's nothing better. And there is nothing better than the travel business.
And I think, excuse me one second, I think that's why Anthony Bourdain was so successful. He was an open-mind curmudgeon. He was like open-minded, but he was a curmudgeon. He was like your really intelligent, fun, frustrated, pissed off uncle. And when he walked into the house, his frustration and being pissed off, he didn't criticize your living room. He didn't criticize the way you spoke. He's just mad at the world, and that's okay. But he embraces the world. That's what I always find fascinating about Anthony
conundrum.
Bourdain.
He was a conundrum.
And I always found that fascinating. Yeah. And I think that's travel. It's like so many people like when I didn't like Spain. Well, why? It's like, well, this, that. It's like, but that's their culture,
That's Spain.
bro. Like, I couldn't find a sandwich at 3:00 in the afternoon. I was starving, but that's their culture.
Actually, I'm with him. Europe, it's tough to find something to eat at
get a
3
sandwich at
o'clock.
11.
I hit the whole minibar. We get there. We're traveling from. I think we came from Vietnam. We get there, and I'm like, "Hey, I'll meet you at the bar. You know, we got to eat lunch for the crew." They call me from the bar and they're like, "Hey, dude, there's no food."
No food.
I was like, "Come on, there's got to be peanuts." No, there's no food, just liquor. And I was like, "I can't drink right now because I'll be drunk." So I literally went to the minibar and ate the entire minibar and didn't have dinner till 9:00 at night.
Yeah.
But I loved it
Europe.
because that's their.
Yeah,
that's
their
Spain
culture.
is like a whole different world from that perspective.
I find Spain too much pressure to be going out to dinner at 9, 10 o'clock at night.
Because you have to be sexy.
I thought we ate late here in New York, but they really have mastered that.
Yeah.
I remember being online at midnight in Barcelona, hoping to get a table somewhere.
And one also being like, right, I have three things going against me, right? If you're traveling the world.
It's a lot more than that.
I'm from Brooklyn, right? One, I'm from Brooklyn.
I have to get it back.
I'm going to make believe I didn't hear. One, I'm from Brooklyn. Two, I'm from Brooklyn, New York, right? And three, I have this accent that I travel with, right? And then I'm an American, so we think we're the greatest people in the world, right? Mm-hmm. And then you go to like, I don't know, Turkey. Right. And you go into the Turkish airline lounge and like, oh my God, this looks like the airport. It's so beautiful. Or you're in a restaurant and all of a sudden the sushi's going by you on the conveyor belt and you can just pull it off. Like, this is really cool. Or you go into the bathrooms in the busiest airport in the world and it's cleaner than the bathroom I have at home. And then, or you go to Finland and in Finland it's a birthright to have free internet. It's in their constitution now that you are born with the right to have free internet. So I'm in the middle of nowhere, Finland at 4:00 in the morning and I'm able to text my daughter. It's like, so you find that, yeah, we're a great country, but we ain't that great. And if we're not careful, we're going to be pushed around a little bit.
Well,
right? And so when you cruise, you can really see that quickly.
You can, country to country.
And I love that you were talking about opening up the world because it actually created the perfect segue because you've just started going to the Galapagos Islands. So if you want to get your Komodo dragon on, now we can go with celebrity.
Is it Galapagos or Galapagos?
I always pronounce it Galapagos or Galapagos. Galapagos goes.
Tomato.
I guess
Either way.
I guess it depends if you're from Brooklyn or Queens, right?
Exactly. Either way, it's one of the most magical places in the world. We've actually been going since 2003, but we are just getting ready to take delivery of the first ship that's ever been built purposely for the Galapagos, Celebrity Flora.
And it's not going to be a multi-thousand person vessel. I can't
100
imagine.
people.
Wow.
50 suites. Stunning little yacht. It's like cruising around in a yacht.
Did you invite
It's
me?
beautiful.
Thank you so much.
You have got to go.
Oh,
you,
wow.
your daughter. Oh my gosh, you would have the best vacation.
I'm there.
It is so
It's one of those
wonderful.
places in the world that I want to see before it
You
gets
have to
ruined
go.
by over tourism.
So my daughter,
you won't because it's controlled.
That's great.
It's controlled.
Especially since you have such a small group. It feels like it'll be intimate, more like a field trip with new friends
it
than
is.
being
It
in a big
is.
ship.
It's one big family on the ship. It's just lovely. I took my niece for her high school graduation 2 years ago. My niece, my sister, and my other niece. We had the best girls' vacation. It was
now this
wonderful.
ship it's in production? Or?
It is. It's it's being built right now in Rotterdam. It's being finished in Rotterdam. And its first cruise is the end of June.
June what day should I clear my calendar?
June 26th. You should clear your calendar. Yeah. Yes.
So what makes it, when you say you're building it for the Galapagos, what's different?
The design of it is very different. It's meant to really live naturally within the environment. We have a woman from Ecuador who we've selected a lot of her furniture, a lot of her artwork. Adriana Hoyas, she's lovely. It's also environmentally, the ecosystem down there is very fragile. It's built specifically for the environment, to protect the environment. No dynamic positioning so that the ship doesn't have to run while it's stopped. No anchoring so that it has to, drop anchor. And it's, very fuel efficient. And you get that when you build new ships. And most of the ships in the Galapagos have been are resells. And they've been refurbished, even our XP, but Flora's the first ever built for the Galapagos.
So when you're saying resales, I mean somebody bought it.
We bought another ship and we refurbished it. But this is the first one built
So when you're building something purpose-built, you could create a much more heightened experience tailored to what you believe is what people are looking for.
Yes, and we built a marina off the back. We have a whole new design of zodiacs because that's how you get to all these islands, much more comfortable, shading on them. So we really took all of the things that would enhance the experience from the ship perspective and incorporated them into the design of Flora.
What's the one thing in a ship outside the engine room and technology that you have to spend a lot of money on that no one ever sees or understands why it's so important? Like one of the things in our hotel rooms, like soundproofing. It's like if you don't have good soundproofing in New York City, you might as well close your hotel.
Right.
So is there something in a ship that's like so like unattractive and unappealing but if you don't have it, is there any?
I think the thing that we spend the most amount of time on is back of house because, you have all of these. One of the things that's different about ships versus hotels is we have so many restaurants all over the ship. We do entertainment. We have stages. We have production. So much is built into everything that you see around you that you don't realize is there. And you really have to account for that when you think about building the ship and how much space is between the floors and what needs to go in there and what experiences you have to provide that most normal hotels don't have to. And then, of course, the soundproofing, because all of these, as big as the ships are, they are only so high, and their length and their width is constrained to a certain amount of space, and all of these areas. So when you're building the spa, you have to make sure fitness is above the rooms. They don't, the people don't hear the treadmills above or below, and also all of the galleys back of house and how efficiently you can make it for the crew so that you reduce injuries and make it easy for them to serve the guests.
I'm just thinking about the order of putting the food in when you get it in storage.
Logistics,
right?
Yeah,
so you don't have to dig through 8,000 boxes to get the food for Tuesday when it's Sunday.
Right. And, that's another thing that's very different about hotels because you store this for much longer periods of time because your ability to provision is much less frequent. And
oops, I forgot the eggs.
Yeah, right. And we have to be able to store them, and you need just the right amount of them so they don't spoil. And one of the person who runs hotel for Celebrity, the senior vice president of hotel operations, actually spent many years in food and beverage at Starwood Hotels. And when he came into the business, he said there are so many similarities, but man, there are a lot of differences. And when you run food and beverage operations in hotels, and then you run them on floating hotels, you realize how complicated our business is. Right. And how everything has to be, it's precision. I have to say, our industry is run by precision.
Well, precision to the ultimate level is offloading thousands of people while thousands of people are coming on, and everything is being loaded on while loaded off. It's insane.
It's insane. It's insane. It's really an amazing business.
And if you're not in love with it, it will destroy you.
If you're not in love with anything, it will destroy you.
There's no point in
doing I think that's true, right?
What's the point of doing anything if you're not in love with it, which is why Anthony's all about follow your passion.
That's right.
There's one person that I see that doesn't really know me and I don't really know him, but I see him in the neighborhood all the time, and he cuts hair. His father owned a barbershop, and not that I need a barbershop. I do my own hair. But
I can tell.
And the matter of fact, I have a razor in my pocket because I missed a spot. You want to see something really?
Let me see.
So how anal I am?
Did you really miss a spot?
Like I missed a spot in the back of my head, and I noticed that this one was on the phone call, and I went to Dwayne Reed and bought a razor so I can shave just that little spot.
Well, I'm learning so much about you today.
I'm very anal about my bald head.
It's the
first time I've ever done
that. A lot of things.
Actually. But I watch him every day, and he's in the same chair. He has a great business. He's cutting probably the same guy's hair for the last 40 years, and he loves his business, and he loves his job. But he's in the same place, cutting the same heads every day. I would take that scissor, and I would stab myself in the eye with it.
No, you wouldn't.
And I look at him, and I'm like, but he loves it. No,
he loves it.
But he loves it, and you can see because people love him. And it's like you said, that business would kill me.
Yep.
But my business, like people say, Anthony, how do you do this and that? And you're all over the it's like, because I love it.
Yep.
And what's really important to me is I also want to be very close to my family. You just make it work. And you say no a lot, but you say yes a lot. And I just think if you love it, but when people say to me the travel business, that's not a real business. Like, dude, it is the greatest business in the world.
Isn't it the number one industry? Like,
we're so freaking lucky to be in this business.
I know.
Look I'm talking to you. I would never be able to get your phone number, and all of a sudden, forget about getting on. Could you imagine getting on her schedule? Let's put this in perspective, right? I can't get on your schedule. If I say, "Hey, I need to talk to you about a new invention,"
my husband can't either.
But I say, "Hey, we got 3 microphones and a couch at the Mark. Can we come in and hang out with you and do a podcast for 2 hours?"
Sure, come on.
It's like
I'm in the city anyway.
Yeah.
Sure, come on.
But as I'm sitting here and you're talking, I'm literally having a moment going, I couldn't get in her office, but I can get into her hotel room and do a podcast. And that's what's cool about what we're doing, about travel. It's about like-minded people, is if you're passionate about it. Like if you would, when I was a kid getting into this business after the Air Force, if you told me that I'd be sitting at the Mark Hotel talking to CEO and President of Celebrity Cruise Lines on our podcast, what? That doesn't make any sense. So how do you so when people say, how do you get here? If I knew how to get here, I would have never got here.
Right. Exactly.
Right?
You're right.
Because I would have followed a plan that wouldn't work.
That wouldn't work. I am so in agreement with that.
Talk about that.
No, I mean, it's like I was just speaking at an event, and I was the keynote at lunch, and I was at the dinner the night before, and there was a dinner keynote. And the dinner keynote was very good. But she really talked about having a plan and working the plan. And I was listening, and I'm thinking all of these young women in the audience are listening to this, and it's really, I guess, important to a certain degree. But then I thought, one of the things that really worries me is that there is so much pressure on people who are young to know what they want or what they want to do. And when I think back on my own career, and I think about how I got from there to here, and I think about the fact I really didn't have a plan, and the one plan I had, somebody pulled the rug out from under me, I realize it isn't so much about the plan. It's about taking advantage of opportunities that are presented to you when you have no idea where those are going to take you.
Positive ambition.
Positive ambition. There you go.
I like that. Speaking about things that you love, what elements do you like most about your ships? What do you personally like? Not what you think customers are going to like. What do you like?
So, well, that I think it goes back to the passion. I love what our brand stands for. I love the fact that it stands for opening up the world. We have a bigger purpose than just what we do in the world. But I also personally love the fact that our ships are boutique, modern luxury hotels sailing around the world, and we care about where we go, which is the destination. We care about the beautiful design, the culinary experience, the service our guests provide, and the amazing accommodations that you're going to sleep in when you're with us, and how we appoint those and how we make you feel in those. And for me, that is like the best vacation ever. So I get to lead a brand that cares about exactly the same things I do. And I think that only amplifies your passion.
How often do you have to go on other brand ships to see what they're up to?
I don't have to ever.
You don't have, because I always think
I
about
make
the
other
hotel
people
CEOs
do that.
Okay,
I make other people do that.
You don't want to be seen on like.
Here's what I think about. I think about where I'm going, not where other people are. I am aware enough that I pay enough attention, but I don't want to get distracted by it because it will hold me back. And I really want to stay true to what we are and what we're doing. I actually look at the hotel industry more than I look at the cruise industry. And I stay in a lot more hotels, and I get inspiration from up and coming and cutting edge or leading edge hotels to see where the trends are going and where consumers are going. I don't look sideways. I always try to look
But there's someone
forward.
getting into your space that also has a rocket ship.
Yeah.
Oh,
Virgin?
Yeah. Well, they're getting into the cruise space. They're not
you-
really getting into my space,
Well,
but they're getting into
Virgin's getting a cruise ship, right?
They're
yeah,
doing
but
two.
they're getting into the cruise space, but not really celebrity space. They're very different. They are taking a whole different approach.
Seems like a different psychographic they're
It's a
looking for.
different psychographic, absolutely. I like the fact that they're entering because people think, wow, if Virgin's in the cruise business,
I should go
must
on a
be
cruise.
cool. It's good.
Yeah,
You know,
and
good.
Disney's
Yeah.
done a great job, I think,
Disney's
of
done a great
highlighting
job.
the entire industry as a whole.
Yeah.
Except the
absolutely.
pools are so small. When my kids were little, I always was upset because I loved the Disney Cruise Lines, loved them. Royal Caribbean's my favorite, but I love
Not celebrity. You're going
I
to come on
haven't been
celebrity.
on
Okay,
Celebrity.
25 meters. Our pool is
But-
25 meters on edge.
But
Really?
listen,
Yes.
I could do laps in there?
Yes.
Wow.
I'm going to
beautiful.
Galapagos. I'm holding you to this. I'm going to Galapagos.
The Galapagos is one big pool.
I'm going to Celebrity.
Thank you.
I'm going to try it.
Thank you.
But
I can see you riding a Komodo dragon. That'll be a lot of fun.
But no, it's interesting. I always think that there's plenty of room. I like competition.
Yeah.
Because it drives everyone.
Yep.
It really does. What's the number? And I'm going to hold you to an answer. I need an answer.
Oh, gosh.
The number one, and can't be like, oh, this employee I met who's wonderful, or this meeting I had on the cruise ship. Your personal best moment on a cruise ship.
Okay, that is so easy.
Okay.
The
you
day,
said that like, God,
I know, right?
Thank you. Boom. Thank you. The day I walked in to the Celebrity Theater on naming day of Celebrity Edge beside Malala Yousufzai, who's the godmother of that ship.
That was going to be my next question. Thank you for
Okay.
bringing it around.
All right. That was the highlight of my life.
Wait. Not talking to Anthony?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Tell the audience, for those people that don't know who she is, and also why.
So Malala Yousufzai is from Pakistan. She goes to Oxford University. I believe she's probably in her junior year by now. At 15 years old, she was shot in the face by the Taliban because she was writing an underground blog to encourage other girls in Pakistan to also get an education. And there's nothing that the Taliban likes more than an uneducated young girl. And when she was on a school bus with some other children, they stopped the bus, walked on, and said, which one of you is Malala? And all her little friends, it was an automatic reaction. They looked toward her, and the Taliban shot her in the face. She was airlifted out. She was sent to England, where she survived the gunshot, and is now an activist for the safe and secure education of about 130 million girls around the world. She is the youngest Nobel Peace Prize winner, UN Messenger of Peace. She's just a hero. She's a heroic person, and she stands for so many of the things that we believe in and stand for at Celebrity.
I got chills. I know who she is, and you articulated it perfectly, and I got chills. Why was it important for her to be the godmother to the ship?
So I think that.
How did she become the god? How did
it doesn't seem like a natural.
No, I know. So it's quite a story, and this is going to turn into a 3-hour podcast. But let me try to condense.
Sorry, that we might have to break it into 20 parts, but it's all good.
Let me try to tell it in as short and meaningful a way as possible. When we were designing Edge, we knew we had something special as a team. We knew that this was going to be a transformative and heroic ship for Celebrity, and we knew it was really going to catapult the brand to where it always has meant to be. And as we were thinking about that, and as we were thinking about the greater purpose that we had, which is opening up the world and encouraging people not to close themselves off and be accepting of others, because that's what this world is all about. And as we think about one of my focuses, which is gender equality and ensuring that women get the same opportunity as men, we were thinking about who could be a heroic and transformative godmother for Celebrity Edge. And Catherine and I were in a meeting. Catherine Hill, who's our head of PR for Celebrity, and she said, we have a name, and it's at the top of the list. You want to hear it? And I said, of course I do. And she said, Malala. And I got goosebumps. And I looked at her and I said, do you think we could get Malala? And she said, no, but don't you think it would be amazing? And then I said yes. Answer. And then let me go back to what I said earlier in the podcast. Anytime someone tells me a no, I think about how I can turn it into a yes. So we all got together again as a team, and we put together a plan on how we were going to not really just call Malala and say, hey, would you be the godmother of Celebrity Edge? That's gratuitous, and it's not genuine, and it's not what we wanted. What we did want is to develop a meaningful relationship and partnership with her fund to help advance her cause and her mission. And so we embarked on a 2-year partnership with the Malala Fund. We made a significant contribution, no questions asked. They were able to do with what they wanted. And we said at the end of the 2 years, which happened to be December of 2018, we would love it if Malala would do us the honor of being godmother of Celebrity Edge. So we went through a lot over the next 6 or 9 months trying to make that work. And finally, Malala agreed and her board agreed. And the day I walked into that theater with Malala, let me tell you the moment I'll never forget. I walked in the room. We were introduced. Nate Berkus was on the stage. He was the host. And Andra Day sang Rise Up.
Wow.
And I just got goosebumps. And we walked in. And you all know as well as I do the rhetoric around Muslims. And here I'm walking in with this young woman with her scarf over her head. And that room erupted. I mean, erupted. People it was shaking. The room was shaking, and they wouldn't sit down. And every time the applause and the energy was even subsiding a little bit, it started all over again. We had to ask them to please sit down so we could continue with the naming ceremony.
Wow.
And I remember thinking to myself, because I get so discouraged, disheartened with so much that's going on. And I remember thinking to myself, this moment has restored my faith in humanity. And that is why, that is the one thing that I will always recount as the most special and memorable time of my career, my life, and certainly this position that I have.
And this magical moment came about simply because we were christening a cruise ship.
Simply because we needed a woman that would stand for what we stood for. To name a cruise ship. And yes, imagine that. And I'm not a very traditional person. You might have gathered that by knowing me for only 3 seconds. But the one thing
to be fair, it's been about 4 hours at this point with this conversation.
Okay, we gotta go. We have so much to do.
We don't.
But I remember thinking that the godmother to me really is a tradition that has deep, deep meaning, because the other thing that was really special about Malala being the godmother is when I walked by a crew member who looked at me and said, thank you for having Malala be the godmother, with tears in their eyes. Because the spirit of the woman who names a ship sails with that ship and its guests and its crew forever. I really believe that.
Well, the spirit of the woman who runs that ship cruises with that ship every day. I can see it. The way you spoke about that, and just at the end of that, you got up on the edge of your seat with that passion because that crew member came to you, and that's what it's about, and it's inspiring. Hearing that story, I'll never forget as long as I live. And it'll remind me that when I'm in a position to influence something, whether it be a ceremony or a meeting or a business, I'm going to come at it in a different way. Because I would imagine there's been so many christenings or so many ships that become cookie cutter and become, okay, we got to do this, hit the bottle, hit the thing, but it took, again, 2 women, and I'm actually looking at the PR person right now. She's staring at me, and that have passion and creativity and are not afraid to take chances to make that happen. And I'll be honest with you, I'm not saying a man couldn't make that happen, but the sensitivity and appreciation for that young lady came from your own struggles and your own. You said something that just literally shocked me to my core. She's 15 years old, and I know the story, and it's still, I never put it. She's on a bus. They say, "Who is Malala?" They look at her, and she got shot in the face, not because of some crazed individual person, but because of an organization that sees this young, pure, innocent woman as destructive to their
threat.
ideology.
Yeah.
And that people I can't understand it until you said it. That's insane.
And then I think what we take for granted, this girl was willing to sacrifice her life for an education and has dedicated her life to making sure other girls don't have to do that.
And if you look at her, she's never had a bad day in her life. She's this Mandela kind of force.
Yes, she is.
So then what happens with your relationship with her going forward, and how do you help bring more visibility to these particular issues?
She's now a captain.
She can be if she wants to. She just has to go through the right training. So we continue to have dialogue with Malala and her fund, and as opportunities present themselves, we will continue to work with the Malala Fund.
The next person.
That was going to be my next point. So it's a good news, bad news story. Yeah. I don't know what to do next.
I don't know what to do.
Nothing.
I don't know what's next for this conversation after that one.
Because you know what? There's very few people that could top an Ellen or an Oprah or even a Michelle Obama. Malala.
Except Malala.
Right.
I know.
She's the only one that could top it. Because those 3 people would be like the next big one. But they pale in comparison to a 15-year-old girl getting shot in the face that then uses that moment. How many moments have there been, whether it be in your life or other people's life, that you did not turn it into something that could be so big and help so many people? And that woman, that young lady, took that moment and made it a lightning rod to change your life and my life. Mm-hmm. She has no idea we're sitting here talking about her. No. And that other people are going to go now on Google right now and they're going to find her and they're going to say, you know what, my life is not as bad as I think it is.
That's right. And hopefully donate and help her. And Andra Day, who sang at our naming ceremony, I adore her. And she had a previous gig when we called her, because we called her a little late as we were thinking about really having someone special.
And you said Malala will be here.
Yeah, and she did, yeah. And she said, I have always wanted to meet her. And I got a beautiful signed album from Andra with a beautiful message, because she'll never forget that either.
Your job does not suck.
My job does not suck.
All right. So, two things. If people
true.
want to get more involved with Malala's organization, how can they do that?
MalalaFund.org.
Okay.
MalalaFund.org.
And then, secondly, it's a weird segue, but you've got a lot more Edge ships coming. Another 4.
Yeah.
That's billions in investment.
Yes.
How the heck do you put that together and be here smiling with so much money on the line?
Yeah, well, listen.
Rich owners.
Yeah. A board that has a lot of confidence in what we're doing. How's that?
That's another way of saying it.
Edge has just, it's the gift that keeps on giving. Everybody I talk to on the team every day, it's defying all logic. Our guests love it. It's an amazing ship. And we just signed for the 5th. We just exercised our option for the 5th in the series. We're very excited about that. Apex comes in spring of 2020. And then the last of them comes in 2024. We're spending over $500 million on the refurbs of the rest of our fleet. We're building Flora for the Galapagos. My job doesn't suck and things are good.
So I should not read when people say the cruise industry's had a tough time.
I don't know to what they're referring, and I will only speak for Celebrity. But no, I mean, I think you can see anything that you do read. I don't know why people say the industry's having a tough time.
I haven't seen that.
I think that the industry is doing well. I think that people finally understand that cruising is an amazing vacation. And just like the hotel business, you have to choose the right experience for you based on the things you care about and want when you take a vacation.
Important. That's really important. To say, you have to choose the right cruise ship for you. It's like, right? It's like choosing the right destination or the right dinner date, right? It's like you're going to have a bad dinner if you go with the wrong person, right?
Sure.
So you're going to have a bad cruise if you choose the wrong, like I would not go on, there's one that I would not name, but Carnival. And, I would not go on that cruise ship because to me it's like a bunch of college kids.
Hey, when I was 27, I had a great time on a Carnival cruise.
So I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it, but I would choose Royal Caribbean. Or like when I travel for hotels, I choose a 3-star brand for business, right? Because I'm usually in and out. And when I travel for pleasure, I go to 5-star hotels.
Then you need to sail on Celebrity.
Right.
If you travel for pleasure at 5-star hotels, Celebrity is the brand for you.
Again, I say yes.
Sounds like a great idea.
Modern luxury, baby, all the way.
Yeah, and that's an interesting point because everyone, especially in the hospitality industry, the millennial group is just dissected to nauseum. If no one's ever been dissected more in the history of business. Do you look at it from a generational standpoint? Do you look from just a human standpoint?
It's got to be a psychographic standpoint.
Completely psychographic, from millennials to 80-year-olds. I just did International Women's Day a few weeks ago on 2 of our ships, Reflection and Edge. And the guest range is quite broad, generations, decades between the youngest and the oldest. And I can't tell you how many men over 70 came up to me at the end and hugged me and applauded me for everything that I am doing to help women.
Hey, go men over 70.
Go men over 70.
Not a group I would have thought would have been very enthusiastic.
Nor me, but that just proves we're wrong. And that proves that it is not generational. It is a mindset. It is like-minded people who need to be taking our cruises and vacations.
I'm doing business actually with somebody. I won't mention his name because he was very excited that you're on the podcast because he can't wait to hear the podcast. And he's my age. He's 54 years old. Every time I see him, I feel his clothes because he has the greatest clothes ever. I'm like, I'm touching his clothes all the time. And, I'm always fascinated by his thought process because he thinks like a 25-year-old. He has the enthusiasm of a 12-year-old on cotton candy, but he has the mind of a 53-year-old executive. And I'm finding that more than less. I think what's happened is that mindset in business is just getting destroyed. You're going to get retired real quick. You're going to be promoted to customer real quick if you have that mindset.
Yep.
You're not going to survive.
No.
I just think it's just for a number of reasons. And I think it's all good. I think it's all good. But we need to, like you said, we need to think of our guest, and in any business, is you need to think of them as a human, but not as a, as what generation or what year they were born.
And our CMO, it drives him crazy when people talk about age or millennials. He's like, stop talking about our guests about age. It's like, do they care about the same things we do? Whether it's the position we hold in the world or the things that we offer as our
right. When you lay down in your new ships, I'm sure I can plug my phone in right next to my bed.
Yeah, you can.
Right.
Absolutely.
Hey, that's a reason enough to take a celebrity.
There you go.
Right there.
Well, you know what? I'll tell you something. If it wasn't, I wouldn't be going again. It would bother me.
So I'm a little scared to wrap this podcast.
Well, now I see she's getting antsy, so it's time for her to go.
We probably.
do
you have anything else to do today?
Not anymore.
No, wait. Literally, there's only one day in my life. There's only one day. I have the Yankee game tonight that my friend.
Oh gosh, all right.
But the on podcast day, it's the only day that I literally don't do anything else because I never want to rush a guest because you never know when you're going to get magic in the bottle and you're magic in the bottle.
Oh wow.
No, you really are.
What do I say to that?
No, well, you could do one thing that we like to do at the end of every show. Okay. Tell us something about you that we don't know.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Something about me that you don't know. When I was growing up, here was my other goal and ambition. I wanted to be a nun.
A nun?
A nun. Yeah. A nun.
Wow.
Yeah. I wanted to be a nun.
How'd you get derailed from that?
I don't know. I finally went to public high school. I don't know. You know, maybe
public high school destroys everyone.
Maybe every young girl that goes to Catholic school wants to be a nun. But I wanted to be a nun. I told the, my colleagues on the executive committee, we have an executive retreat every once in a while, and I told that story at dinner, and they all spit their food out into the dish.
What was it in your childhood? What was the moment where you said, I think I want to be like, what was it? What was it in your upbringing?
I don't know. First of all, I was in grammar school with nuns. Not all of them were nice nuns.
I was going to say, you must have had an influential nun, though.
I must have, but I don't know. I really don't know what was going through my mind. That's why I'm saying don't have a plan when you're too young. Let's see where life takes you.
If you could come to my house and convince my 3 daughters to become nuns.
No.
That would be fantastic.
Nuns, poor nuns. Are there any anymore? I mean, this is a dying breed.
No, there are
a few.
Yeah.
There are none.
Sorry.
I gotta give you that was good.
But I never wanted to be a president and CEO, so that's crazy, isn't it?
Right.
Look where I ended up.
Well, I would have never, I'll remember that one too. So Glenn, tell us something we don't know.
So when I was a 12-year-old boy, I wanted to be a nun. But then I realized I was a Jewish guy. So not going to work out. Actually, last week, I took my kids to go see Captain Marvel, and I was amazed by how much my 15-year-old twin boys enjoyed that movie and how much I enjoyed that movie and how much I felt that I just connected to the characters that were in that film and how exciting it is to see the rise of amazing female characters in movies and on TV. Because a few weeks before that, I was watching Star Trek Discovery and there was 4 kick-ass women fighting it out. And I just haven't seen stuff like this in my life, and I think it's just so awesome and inspiring for younger people that are coming up.
And when it started with Wonder Woman, right?
Yeah.
Where that movie grossed, and everybody said it's never going to work. And now Captain Marvel has outpaced over $1 billion. Crazy.
Or one celebrity cruise ship.
Or the price of one celebrity cruise ship.
I met Linda Carter at the Plaza Hotel back in 1990, whatever. She was Wonder
Yeah,
Woman, right?
she
Linda
was.
Carter. And I just remember standing there. She was in the oak room in the corner. She was with, I believe, her husband, and she was just as glamorous as you would imagine Wonder would be at her age. And I just remember staring at her, and it's the only time I couldn't speak to a celebrity. Like, I never go up to a celebrity and say, can I take a picture?
Yeah.
But I can, like, if they pass by me and say, hey, how are you? Are you enjoying your stay? I can function. I just remember staring at her going, I think you were my first female crush. I'm in love with you. Like, cause come on, Wonder Woman?
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God. And so Linda Carter to this day, and now she's a cabaret singer, and I used to run the cabaret at the Algonquin.
Oh, how funny.
And I tried to get her into cabaret just simply because I wanted to hear Wonder Woman sing.
That's how I felt about Bionic Woman.
Bionic.
Oh, there you go.
Wagner.
But think
Lindsay
about these
Wagner.
women who started it all, right? We didn't know it then.
Cinderella started it all.
Cinderella.
So tell me, ask me the question.
I was about to. Tell me something about you that I don't know.
I would have never gotten to this answer unless you would have said your whole Marvel story. But Cinderella. I love Cinderella. And I never knew why I loved Cinderella so much. But I think as a boy, I liked seeing this powerful person. And you can talk about the story, you know, and dissect it, but like she became a princess. She became Cinderella. And I was always fascinated by it. I was always fascinated by the Cinderella story.
So can I tell you one of my favorite sayings that my sister sent to me? So my sister sent to me a text of something she saw on Facebook. And your Cinderella story reminds me of this because it said, teach your daughters less about fitting into the glass slipper and more about shattering the glass ceiling.
I love it.
I like that too. Normally that'd be the
perfect.
perfect outline, but you've got to give a great shameless plug for yourself, for celebrity, for anything else that you want in the entire world.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. CelebrityCruises.com. Come and visit our website. We're an amazing, wonderful vacation. And we want to open up the world for all of your listeners.
And I think, I never really looked at cruising as opening up the world. And especially recently, in the last 9 years, I've been so fortunate to travel all over the world. And you can get on a cruise and the world opens up to you.
Country after country.
It took me, 32 years in a TV show to be in a business where somebody actually put me on a plane and said, hey, go show people the world. And you guys do that every day.
We do it every day, and no better way.
Yeah. And if I could, and I didn't want to interrupt the question that you asked her, but I just want to go back, and you said something about the quote that your sister gave you, right? And yesterday, my daughter and her friend get in my car, and her friend Devin, who I'm, knowing she's a little girl, and she starts smiling. She goes, I want you to thank your daughter for me. I was like, well, she's driving the car, so why don't you thank her? She goes, she went in and she got, you have to know my daughter to understand, like she's going to shatter the glass ceiling. She went in and the teacher was going to give her a test and was going to give her an essay this week. And they've already had 3 tests and an essay, whatever. And she went up to her and she questioned her and she said, I don't understand. Like, people did not do well on the essay and the test, and you're giving us another one. And it's not the same thing. It's like a completely different subject. Don't you think we need to back up for a second? And whatever it was. So the teacher, backed off.
Good for her.
And so like, she didn't do it to get out of the work. She did it because it's like, we want to learn, but we're not learning this way. Right? And then my other daughter, who didn't get into the school she wanted to get into, just wrote this beautiful Facebook page post about, don't let not getting into the school of your dreams define who you are. And I'm like, oh my God, are we building little, ceiling breakers?
Yeah.
And I hope to God. So I'm going to remember that. I'm going to actually find that quote somewhere and give it to my daughters.
Well, what she said after that was, thanks to you, my daughters know all about shattering the glass ceiling. And that was just one of the most beautiful things ever.
You made me cry 3 times on this podcast.
Normally he's like 8 or 10 times on the podcast.
And she was telling the Malala story. You got glassy-eyed.
Yeah.
And you don't cry.
I know. I don't have feelings yet. Today, I actually did. Are you on social media on your own anywhere? Anything that you want to give out?
I am at Lisa Lutoff-Perlo. Yes, on Twitter.
On Twitter.
At Lisa Lutoff-Perlo, looking around.
I love that.
At Lisa Lutoff-Perlo on Twitter. That's it.
And Anthony?
Where am I? I'm at anywhere you want to be on the internet at Anthony Hotels.
Great. And I am, of course, at Traveling Glenn. I hope you guys enjoyed this show.
This is my favorite podcast.
This has got to be a
my favorite.
This is going to definitely be a 2-parter because this is unbelievable.
And she's my favorite guest.
What a great conversation this was.
And ditto. This was a blast.
Yeah. This was absolutely fantastic, and I want to thank everybody for checking in.
It's Checking In with Anthony and Glenn, teaching you to be the hotelier that you wanna be. It's Checking In with Anthony and Glenn.